Phacros Prime hung in space like a jewel, a planet covered entirely in cities. Billions of lights sparkled across its surface. Orbital rings circled the world, massive structures housing millions more. This was the heart of the Empire, the center of Vacrian civilization. And now, for the first time in its history, it was under threat. The human fleet took up position at the edge of the system. 3,800 ships, that's all that remained from the 5,000 that started. But they were enough. They had to be. Admiral Jiwan prepared for the meeting with High Regent Vorath. It would take place on a neutral station halfway between the fleets. Security would be extreme. Trust was zero on both sides. But this meeting had to happen. One way or another, the war would end here. Lieutenant Salmon led the security detail. 20 of humanity's best soldiers, armed with the latest weapons. Ready for anything. She stood outside the meeting chamber as Jiwan entered. Their eyes met. Salmon nodded once. She would keep the Admiral safe. No matter what. Inside the chamber, Vorath waited. He looked ancient. Enhanced with life extension technology, he had ruled for over 3,000 years. He was there when Earth burned. He gave the order. Now he sat across from the descendants of the survivors, and for the first time in his long life, he felt fear. Jiwan entered. She wore her military uniform. No decoration. No ceremony. Just the simple gray of the human reclamation fleet. She sat down across from the man who murdered her world. Admiral Jiwan, Vorath began. Thank you for coming. I believe we can find a peaceful solution. Peace? Jiwan interrupted. You destroyed my homeworld, killed 8 billion people, hunted the survivors across the galaxy, and now you want peace? Vorath's expression hardened. That was 3,000 years ago. Those humans are dead. You never knew them. Why die for the past? Because the past matters. Because justice matters. Because if we forget, then Earth died for nothing. Vorath leaned back. Justice. You speak of justice while deploying biological weapons. While killing millions of my people. You're no better than us. The words hit hard. Jiwan felt them like a physical blow. Because part of her wondered if he was right. Had they become monsters in pursuit of justice? Had the darkness consumed them? But then Vorath made a mistake. He smiled. Besides, even if you destroy my fleet, even if you take this world, what then? There are hundreds of other systems. Trillions of Vacrians. You can't kill us all. We don't want to kill you all, Jiwan said quietly. We want you to face justice. We want the Empire dissolved. We want the military disarmed. We want trials for war criminals. We want the galaxy to know what you did and that there are consequences for genocide. Vorath laughed. Actually laughed. You expect me to surrender? To submit to trial by primitives? Never. I would rather die. That can be arranged, Jiwan said coldly. Before Vorath could respond, another figure entered the chamber. Empress Silara. She was younger than Vorath. Only 500 years old. She represented the Reform faction in Vacrian politics, those who believed the Empire's ways were wrong. Forgive the intrusion, Silara said, but I must speak. She looked at Jiwan. Not all Vacrians supported what happened to Earth. Some of us fought against it. Some of us died trying to stop it. Please don't judge our entire species by the actions of this regime. Jiwan studied her. The Empress seemed sincere. But sincerity didn't undo 3,000 years of suffering. If you opposed the genocide, where were you? Why didn't you stop it? We tried, Silara said quietly. We failed. The military was too powerful. Vorath's supporters too many. But we kept the memory alive. Some of us never stopped working for change. She pulled out a data crystal. This contains evidence. Names of Vacrians who resisted, who were executed for trying to save your people. Proof that not everyone was guilty. Please, consider mercy for those who deserve it. Jiwan took the crystal. She would review it later. But it didn't change the fundamental problem. Vorath refused to surrender. And without his surrender, the war would continue. The meeting ended without agreement. Jiwan returned to her ship. Her officers were waiting. Captain Minho now recovered from his injuries. Dr. Hyejin still haunted by her weapon. Commander Deho, always ready with solutions, and Lieutenant Sumin, who had spent years living among the enemy. Vorath won't surrender, Jiwan told them. He's prepared to fight to the death. His pride won't allow anything else. Then we give him death, Minho said. We've come too far to stop now, but Sumin shook her head. Admiral, I need to tell you something. During the meeting, I was contacted by someone. Admiral Kraith, everyone tensed. Kraith was their prisoner, captured at Korvax Nebula. What was he doing contacting someone? Go on, Jiwan said. He's proposing a coup. He and his supporters will remove Vorath from power. In exchange, we help them take control and promise fair treatment. The Empire would surrender peacefully. The war would end. Silence filled the room. Work with a Vakrian? Trust the enemy? It seemed impossible, insane, but also practical. It's a trap, Minho said immediately. They'll betray us the moment we lower our guard. Maybe, Eugene said. But think of the lives it would save. Both human and Vakrian. Isn't that worth the risk? Daeho ran calculations. If Kraith is genuine, this could work. If he's not, we're in the exact same position we're in now. The risk is minimal. The potential gain is enormous. Soman spoke carefully. I've studied Kraith. Spent time with him. He's not evil. He's a soldier following orders, but he's also smart enough to know the Empire is doomed. This might be his way of saving what he can. Jiwan thought about Earth, about the 8 billion dead, about the 1 million humans who died at Korvax, about all the suffering on both sides. Could she really work with the enemy to end this? Could she betray everything they fought for? Or would refusing the offer be the real betrayal? Choosing pride over peace? Revenge over justice? Bring Kraith to me, she said finally. I want to hear this proposal directly. Admiral Kraith was brought to the flagship under heavy guard. He looked tired. His uniform was clean but worn. He had the bearing of someone who had accepted defeat but not given up. Jiwon respected that, even if she hated everything he represented. Admiral Jiwon, Kraith said. Thank you for seeing me. Speak, she said simply. Vorath is insane, Kraith said bluntly. He has activated the planetary defense weapons, ancient systems capable of destroying the planet itself. If we attack, he will trigger them. He would rather see Vakros Prime burn than surrender. Billions will die. Jiwan felt cold. He would destroy his own homeworld? He's done it before. 3 times. Rebellious worlds that refused to obey. He cracked them like eggs and didn't lose a moment of sleep. He'll do it again. The room fell silent. If Kraith was telling the truth, they faced an impossible choice. Attack and condemn billions to death. Retreat and let Vorath escape justice. What do you propose? Jiwan asked. My people and I will stage a coup. We have support within the military and civilian government. We can take the palace. Capture Vorath. Disable the weapons. But we need your help. We need human special forces to assist. And we need your word that you won't execute everyone involved in the old regime. You want us to spare war criminals? I want you to spare people who are willing to change. To build something better. Vorath and his inner circle will face justice, but the millions who simply followed orders, they deserve a chance at redemption. Minho stood up angrily. This is insane. He's asking us to forgive genocide. No, Kraith said quietly. I'm asking you to be better than us. To show mercy we never showed you. To prove that humanity's greatest strength isn't your weapons or your tactics. It's your capacity for forgiveness. The words hung in the air. Jiwon looked at her officers, saw the conflict in their eyes, the desire for vengeance, the hope for peace, the fear of betrayal, the dream of something better. She made her choice. Here are my terms. Vorath and his top 17 commanders will be tried for genocide. If found guilty, they face life imprisonment, not execution. Everyone else who cooperates gets amnesty. The Empire dissolves. Democratic institutions are established. Human observers oversee the transition. War reparations are paid over the next century. Those are non-negotiable. Kraith nodded slowly. I accept. On behalf of those who wish for change, I accept your terms. Then we have a deal. Jiwan extended her hand. Kraith looked at it for a long moment. Then he took it. Human and Vakrian, former enemies, now reluctant allies. The galaxy would never be the same. The coup was planned carefully. Kraith's loyalists would strike at midnight. Lieutenant Somin and her Special Forces team would infiltrate the palace. Their mission was to disable the planetary weapons and secure Vorath. It was dangerous. Many things could go wrong. But it was their best chance. Captain Minho demanded to be part of the assault team. Jiwan agreed. He needed this. Needed to see that not all Vakrians were monsters. Needed to understand that the galaxy was more complicated than good versus evil. When midnight came, the coup began. Kraith's forces moved swiftly. They secured key positions throughout the capital. Communication centers, military bases. government buildings. The operation went smoothly. Almost too smoothly. Somin led her team into the Imperial Palace. They moved like shadows through the corridors, past guards who had been bribed, through doors left conveniently unlocked. It felt wrong, like walking into a trap. Admiral Jiwan stood in the darkened chamber, her eyes fixed on the holographic display floating before her. The image showed Earth as it once was. Blue oceans covered most of the planet. Green continents stretched across the surface. White clouds drifted peacefully through the atmosphere. It was beautiful. It was home. It was gone. The hologram flickered and changed. Now it showed Earth's final moments. Fire rained from the sky. Continents cracked open like broken eggs. Oceans boiled away into space. 8 billion people died in a single day. The Vakrians had done this. They came from the stars demanding surrender. When humanity refused, they destroyed everything. That was 3,000 years ago. Jiwan had never seen Earth with her own eyes. Neither had her parents or their parents or anyone alive today. But every human child grew up watching these recordings. Every human knew what was lost. Every human remembered. Jiwan touched the data crystal hanging around her neck. Inside was the last message from Earth. A child's voice asking if anyone was coming to save them. No one came. No one could. The survivors fled into deep space, scattered and broken. But they survived. They built new homes on distant worlds. They had children who had children who had children. And they waited. Now the waiting was over. The chamber doors opened behind her. Jiwan turned to see the Council of Remembrance entering. 12 men and women from the oldest families. They carried the weight of history on their shoulders. Their decision today would change everything. The eldest counselor spoke first. His voice was tired but strong. Admiral Jiwan, you have called us here to approve Operation Reckoning. Tell us why we should send our children to war. Jiwan straightened. Because justice demands it. Because those who destroyed Earth still rule the galaxy. Because if we don't act, Earth's death means nothing. Another counselor stood. She was younger, maybe 50 years old. Justice or revenge, Admiral? There is a difference, is there? Jiwan asked. The Vakrians killed billions. They hunted our ancestors across the stars. They built their empire on our graves. If that doesn't deserve punishment, what does? The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew she was right. The Vakrians had committed genocide. They showed no mercy. They felt no guilt. High Regent Vorath, who ordered Earth's destruction, still lived. Still ruled. Still believed he did nothing wrong. Show them, Jiwan said quietly. Show them what we've become. The hologram changed again. Now it showed the human fleet. 5,000 warships filled the display. Each one was a masterpiece of technology. They could appear and disappear at will using phase cloaking. Their weapons could lock down space itself. Their crews were connected directly to the ships through neural links, thinking and reacting faster than any enemy could follow. 3,000 years ago, humanity fled in 17 ships, scared, broken, helpless. Now they had 5,000 ships, advanced, powerful, ready. The Vakrians think we're extinct, Jiwan continued. They forgot about us. That's their mistake. We never forgot them. Across the hidden city of Sanctuary Prime, Captain Minho was preparing his team. He stood in the training hall watching his soldiers practice. They moved like dancers, graceful and deadly. Each one wore combat armor that made them stronger and faster. Each one had trained their entire adult life for this mission. Minho's second-in-command approached. The men are ready, Captain. They're asking when we leave. Soon, Minho said. The council is voting now. Do you think they'll approve it? Minho smiled coldly. They have to. We've waited 3,000 years. We're not waiting anymore. He thought about his grandmother's stories. She used to tell him about Earth's forests, real trees that grew from the ground, birds that flew through real sky, rain that fell from actual clouds. He had never seen any of those things. The Vakrians took that future from him before he was born. They would pay for it. In the research sector, Dr. Higgins stared at the vial in her hands. Inside was a pale blue liquid. It looked harmless. It wasn't. She had spent 10 years creating it. A biological weapon designed specifically to target Vakrian physiology. One drop could kill 1,000 of them. One bottle could kill millions. Her assistant noticed her expression. Having doubts, Doctor? Always, Higgin admitted. Creating something like this makes me question what we're becoming. We're becoming what we need to be to survive, the assistant said. The Vakrians understand only strength. We'll show them ours. Hijin set the vial down carefully. Maybe, but at what cost to our souls? Far away in Vakrian space, Lieutenant Soman walked through the streets of an alien city. She looked like one of them. Genetic modifications made her appear Vakrian. She had lived among them for 10 years, gathering information, learning their secrets. They had no idea a human walked among them. Her neural implant buzzed softly, a coded message from command. The operation was approved. The fleet was coming. Soman felt her heart race. Finally. After all these years of hiding and lying, the truth would emerge. The Vakrians would learn that humanity never died. They just went away to get stronger. She ducked into an alley and sent her reply. High Regent Vorath's location confirmed. Defense grid coordinates uploaded. She had done her part. Now the warriors would do theirs. Back on Sanctuary Prime, Commander Deho stood on the bridge of the flagship Prometheus Rising. The ship was enormous, 3 kilometers long and packed with technology the Vakrians couldn't imagine. He had designed most of it himself. Phase-shifting shields, reality anchor weapons, systems that could fold space without traditional engines. It was his life's work. His gift to humanity's revenge. All systems ready, Commander, his engineering team reported. We can launch whenever ordered, Deho nodded. Good. Today we stop running. Today we start taking back what was stolen from us. In the council chamber, the vote was complete. 12 hands raised in agreement. Not a single voice against. The eldest counselor spoke formally. Admiral Jiwan, the Council of Remembrance approves Operation Reckoning. The fleet will launch. May Earth's memory guide you. May justice be served. Jiwan bowed her head respectfully. Then she activated her communicator. Her voice rang out across every ship, every station, every human settlement in the hidden colonies. This is Admiral Jiwan. Operation Reckoning is approved. All personnel report to battle stations. The fleet launches in 6 hours. After 3,000 years, we're going home. After 3,000 years, we're going to make them pay. Across Sanctuary Prime, alarms sounded. Not warnings, but calls to arms. People rushed to their posts. Families said goodbye to soldiers. Children watched their parents leave, knowing some wouldn't return. But no one protested. No one asked them to stop. Everyone remembered Earth. Everyone wanted justice. 6 hours later, the fleet gathered in formation. 5,000 ships in perfect order. Jiwan stood on the bridge of Prometheus Rising, watching them. These were humanity's children, strong, smart, angry, ready. She picked up the data crystal again. Played the message one more time. The child's voice asking for help. Asking if anyone would save them. We're coming, Jiwan whispered. We're finally coming, she gave the order. The fleet jumped to hyperspace. 5,000 ships disappeared in flashes of light, crossing the galaxy in moments. They were heading toward Vakrian space, toward the empire that destroyed their world, toward revenge that had been 3,000 years in the making. On the edge of Vakrian territory, sensor stations detected strange readings, ships appearing from nowhere, technology they had never seen. The reports went up the chain of command. Admiral Kraith read them with growing concern. Something was wrong. Something was coming. In his palace, High Regent Vorath received the news with disinterest. Unknown ships at the border. Probably pirates or explorers. Nothing to worry about. He had ruled for over 3,000 years. He had crushed dozens of rebellions. He had destroyed entire species who opposed him. What could possibly threaten him now? He had forgotten about the humans. That was his first mistake. It would not be his last. The Korvax Nebula blazed with radiation. Purple and blue gases swirled through space like paint in water. Inside this cosmic storm, the human fleet waited. 5,000 ships hidden among the clouds. Silent, patient, deadly. Admiral Jiwan stood on the bridge of Prometheus Rising. She hadn't slept in 36 hours. Couldn't sleep. The weight of what was coming pressed down on her like a physical thing. Every decision she made could mean the difference between victory and extinction. They're here, Commander Deho said quietly. The sensor display lit up. 50,000 Vakrian ships emerging from hyperspace. They came in waves, filling the space at the nebula's edge. It was the largest military fleet in galactic history, and it was here to crush humanity once and for all. Admiral Kraith watched the nebula with grim determination. He knew the humans were in there hiding, using the radiation to mask their presence. It was smart. But it wouldn't be enough. Numbers mattered. Numbers always mattered. All ships advance into the nebula, he ordered. Stay in formation. Watch for phase-cloaked vessels. Remember what we learned at Delthorn. These humans are dangerous. The Vacrian fleet moved forward like a vast wall of metal and fire. They expected an ambush. They were ready for one. But nothing prepared them for what actually happened. The first human ships appeared from nowhere. Phase cloaking allowed them to materialize inside the Vacrian formation. They fired at point-blank range, destroying 3 dreadnoughts before anyone could react. Then they vanished again, slipping back into the nebula's protective cover. Return fire. Vacrian captains screamed. Their gunners shot at empty space. The humans were already gone. Captain Minho led his squadron deeper into enemy territory. His ship danced through the radiation clouds, using them as cover. The neural link made him one with his vessel. He thought, and the ship responded instantly. No delay, no hesitation. Perfect unity. Target that carrier, he said. His weapons officer already knew. Already lined up the shot. They were thinking as one unit. That was the advantage. That was what 3,000 years of preparation gave them. The carrier exploded beautifully. Thousands of small craft spilled out like bees from a broken hive. Most didn't make it. The vacuum claimed them. Minho felt a flash of guilt, then pushed it down. This was war. War had no room for mercy, but Admiral Kraith was not the fool Vorath was. He had studied the humans, learned their patterns, and he had brought countermeasures. Activate quantum disruption fields, he commanded. Across the Vacrian fleet, new devices came online. They projected fields that disrupted the phase-cloaking technology. Suddenly, human ships couldn't disappear anymore. They were visible, vulnerable. The tide began to turn. Ji-Wan saw it happening. Human ships taking heavy fire. Unable to phase out, unable to escape, she had to adapt fast. All ships switched to Formation Delta. Use the nebula itself as cover. Deho, can you counter those disruption fields? Working on it, Deho said. His fingers flew across his console. He was brilliant. The best engineer humanity had. If anyone could solve this, he could. The battle became a brutal slugging match. Human ships were faster and more advanced, but there were so few of them. Vacrian ships were older and slower, but there were so many. The mathematics of war played out in fire and death. Minho's ship took a direct hit. Shields failed. Hull breached. Alarm screamed. Half his crew died in an instant. Sucked out into space. He held onto his command chair as the ship spun out of control. Emergency power to engines, he shouted. Get us stable! They managed it, barely, but the ship was crippled. Weapons offline. Shields gone. They were dead in space, and a Vacrian cruiser was coming right for them. Abandon ship, Minho ordered. Captain, we can still fight. That's an order. Get to the pods. But Minho didn't leave. He stayed at his post. Someone had to make sure the evacuation went smoothly. Someone had to buy time. That someone was him. He watched his crew escape in life pods. Watched them scatter into the nebula. Good. They would survive. That was what mattered. The Vacrian cruiser closed in. Minho saw it through the view screen. Coming to finish them off, he was ready to die. Ready to join all the others who had given their lives for Earth's memory. But then something unexpected happened. The cruiser exploded. Just blew apart. For a moment, Minho didn't understand. Then he saw another human ship sweeping past. Weapons still hot. Someone had saved him. Whoever it was, he owed them a drink. Dr. Hyejin watched the casualty reports climb. Hundreds of human ships damaged or destroyed. Thousands of crew dead. The numbers kept rising. And she had the weapon that could stop it. The biological agent. One command. That's all it would take. She contacted Ji-Wan. Admiral, the weapon is ready. Give me the order. Ji-Wan looked at the battle display. They were losing. Not quickly, but steadily. The Vacrians were adapting, learning. If this continued, humanity would be defeated. Everything would be for nothing. She had no choice. Do it, Ji-Wan said quietly. Deploy the weapon. Hyejin felt her heart break. But she followed the order. She always would. That was her duty. Her burden, her sin. The weapon was released. Tiny nanites. Billions of them. Invisible. Deadly. They spread through the nebula like a plague. Within an hour, Vacrian crew members began dying. Their cells broke down. Organs failed. It was slow, painful, horrible. Ships lost crew, lost function, lost the ability to fight. The mighty Vacrian fleet began to falter. Admiral Kraith saw it happening. His own crew was sick, dying. He didn't know what was killing them. Some kind of disease, something the humans made. It was brilliant, terrible, effective. He made the hardest call of his life. All ships. Full retreat. Get out of the nebula. Now. The Vacrian fleet tried to withdraw, but Commander Deho had been working all this time. He had cracked the quantum disruption fields. Better than that, he had reversed them. Now human ships could phase cloak again, and the Vacrians couldn't escape. Reality anchors activated, Deho reported. They're trapped. It became a massacre. Human ships appeared and disappeared, striking at will. Vacrian ships, their crews dying from the biological weapon, couldn't fight back effectively. Couldn't run. Could only die. Lieutenant Sumin had infiltrated Admiral Kraith's flagship days before the battle. Now she moved through its corridors toward the bridge. Time to end this. Time to capture the one Vacrian admiral who actually understood the threat humanity posed. She found him in his command center, exhausted, defeated, surrounded by dying crew members. He looked up as she entered. His eyes widened in recognition. She had dropped the disguise, stood before him as fully human. You, he said. You were Lieutenant Corvus. In my fleet. My name is Soman, Lieutenant Soman, and you're my prisoner. Kraith laughed bitterly. Take me then. It doesn't matter. The Empire still has 40,000 ships in reserve. This battle changes nothing. This battle changes everything, Soman said. You're the only one who understood us. The only one who saw the danger. Without you, they'll keep underestimating humanity. Keep making mistakes. Keep losing. She moved closer. But that's not why I'm here. I need information. Where is High Regent Vorath? Where are the remaining fleet assets? Tell me and I promise you'll be treated fairly. Refuse and you can watch your empire burn from a cell. Kraith looked at his dying crew, at the destroyed fleet, at the future he could see coming. You've already won, he said quietly. You just don't know it yet. The Battle of Korvax Nebula ended after 8 days. 8 days of continuous fighting. 8 days of death and destruction. When it was over, the Vacrian fleet was broken. 42,000 ships destroyed or captured. 8,000 escaped. Human losses were also terrible. 1,200 ships gone. Over 1 million crew members dead. Jiwan walked through the medical bay. Rows of injured soldiers. Some would recover. Some wouldn't. All of them had paid the price for her decisions. For her war. She stopped at each bed. Thanked each person. It was the least she could do. She found Captain Minho in the recovery ward. His ship had been destroyed, but he survived. Barely. He was covered in burns and bandages, but his eyes were clear, alert. Admiral, he said, trying to salute. Rest, Captain. You've earned it. Did we win? Yes, the Vacrian fleet is destroyed. The path to their core worlds is open. Minho closed his eyes. Good, that's good. He paused. But Admiral, I saw something during the battle. A Vacrian escape pod. Could have destroyed it. Didn't. The people inside were just scared, like us. I couldn't do it. Jiwan put her hand on his shoulder. That's not weakness, Captain. That's what makes us different from them. That's what makes us human. In her lab, Dr. Heejin stared at her hands. They were clean, but she felt blood on them. The biological weapon had worked perfectly. Too perfectly. She had created something that caused immeasurable suffering. Yes, it saved human lives. But at what cost to her soul? She recorded a message. A confession, taking full responsibility for the weapon. For the deaths. For everything. If humanity won this war and war crimes trials followed, she would face judgment. She deserved it. Commander Deho was already working on repairs, already designing improvements. The battle had taught him things, shown him weaknesses in their technology. He would fix them, make the fleet stronger, better. That was his job. That was how he served. But even he felt the weight. 1 million dead. 1 million people who wouldn't go home. 1 million families destroyed. Was revenge worth that price? The Vacrian garrison at Delthorn detected them first. Lieutenant Corvus was finishing his shift when the sensors screamed warnings. Ships emerging from hyperspace. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Then thousands. His hands shook as he activated the base-wide alarm. Get Admiral Kraith on the line, he shouted. Now! Admiral Kraith had been expecting something like this. The strange sensor readings from the past week made him nervous. When the call came, he was already on his way to the command deck. He arrived just as the visual came through. His blood ran cold. The ships were beautiful, sleek, dark. They looked nothing like any design he had seen before. They hung in space like predators waiting to strike. And there were so many of them. 5,000 at least, maybe more. "Sir, they're broadcasting something," his communications officer said. "Should I put it through?" Kraith nodded. The screen filled with an image. Not a face, a planet. Blue and green and beautiful. Then fire, destruction, death. The image changed to show a data stamp. Earth. 3,000 years ago. The message was clear. Then came the voice. Human, female. Cold as ice. "We remember." Kraith felt his heart skip. The humans. They were supposed to be extinct, dead, gone forever. But here they were. And they had come for revenge. "Battle stations," he ordered. "Get all ships online. Send an emergency transmission to High Command." The garrison sprang into action. 200 Vakrian warships moved into defensive formation. The station's weapons powered up. Shields activated. It wasn't enough. Kraith knew it in his bones. But maybe they could hold long enough for reinforcements to arrive. On the bridge of Prometheus Rising, Admiral Jiwan watched the Vakrian fleet scramble. Good. Let them be afraid. Let them feel what humanity felt 3,000 years ago. She opened a channel to her captains. "All ships. This is the moment we've prepared for. Show them what we've become. Show them why they should have finished the job when they had the chance. Attack." Captain Minho grinned as the order came through. His ship, Retribution's Edge, leaped forward. Around him, his crew moved with perfect coordination. They had trained for this their entire lives. Every simulation, every drill, all of it led to this moment. "Activate phase cloak," he commanded. The ship shimmered and vanished from normal space. One moment it was there. The next it was gone. The Vakrian sensors couldn't track it. They fired it where it had been, hitting nothing but empty space. Retribution's Edge reappeared behind a Vakrian destroyer. Minho's gunners didn't hesitate. Plasma cannons fired at point-blank range. The destroyer's shields didn't even slow the shots down. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "One down," Minho said calmly. "Next target." Across the battlefield, the same scene repeated hundreds of times. Human ships appeared and disappeared like ghosts. They struck from impossible angles. Every shot found its mark. The Vakrians tried to fight back, but they were using 3,000-year-old tactics against enemies who had spent that entire time preparing for this war. Commander Deho monitored the battle from his station. The reality anchor weapons were performing perfectly. Any Vakrian ship that tried to flee found itself trapped. Space itself locked down around them. Their engines couldn't engage. Their escape pods couldn't launch. They were stuck. "Beautiful," Deho murmured. "Absolutely beautiful." On Delthorn's station, Lieutenant Soman moved through the corridors. She had been deep undercover for years. Now it was time to finish her mission. She reached the reactor control room. The guards didn't question her. They had no reason to. She looked Vakrian. She acted Vakrian. Her identification checked out. Once inside, she locked the door behind her. Her fingers flew across the console. She had memorized these systems long ago. Override codes, safety protocols, emergency shutdowns. She disabled them all. The reactor would melt down in 15 minutes, but she wasn't a monster. She activated the civilian evacuation alarm. Women and children, support staff. The people who had nothing to do with Earth's destruction. They deserved a chance to escape. The military personnel could burn. Admiral Kraith watched his fleet die. Ship after ship disappeared in flames. His captain screamed for orders. His crew looked to him for leadership. But what could he do? The humans had technology beyond anything in the Empire's arsenal. They were faster, stronger, smarter. He made the hardest decision of his life. All ships retreat, get to the jump point and scatter. Live to fight another day. Sir, the reality anchors. "I know," Kraith snapped. "Just try. Some of us might make it." 37 ships managed to escape, out of 200. The rest were destroyed or captured. Kraith's ship was among the survivors. As they jumped away, he recorded everything. The human ships, their tactics, their technology. If the Empire was going to survive this, they needed to learn. Fast Delthorn Station exploded 20 minutes later. The reactor meltdown ripped through the structure like a knife through paper. But the civilian sections were empty. Soman had made sure of that. She watched from her escape pod as the military section burned. Justice, she thought. Not revenge, justice. Captain Minho found her pod an hour later. When she came aboard Retribution's edge, he was waiting. His face was red with anger. You let them escape, he said. Civilians. You warned them? Yes, Soman said calmly. They're Vakrians. The same species that killed Earth. They're children and teachers and doctors. They weren't even born when Earth died. Soman met his eyes. If we kill everyone, we're no better than them. Minho wanted to argue. Wanted to scream at her. But part of him knew she was right. He had felt something during the battle, watching enemy ships explode, seeing bodies floating in space. It felt wrong. Like he was becoming the very thing he hated. Get out of my sight, he said quietly. The fleet regrouped. Admiral Jiwan reviewed the results. Delthorn was theirs. The first Vakrian system had fallen. One down, hundreds to go. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, she felt tired. Dr. Hyejin came to see her later that evening. She held a datapad. On it were casualty figures. 50,000 Vakrian military dead, but also civilians, people who got caught in the crossfire, people who couldn't evacuate in time. Is this what justice looks like? Hyejin asked. Jiwan didn't answer. She couldn't, because she didn't know anymore. The human fleet moved forward. 3 more systems fell in the next week. Each victory was easier than the last. The Vakrians couldn't adapt fast enough. Their ships were too slow. Their weapons too weak. Their tactics too predictable. But then the reports came. Long-range sensors detected something massive. A Vakrian fleet was forming in the core systems. Not 200 ships. 50,000. The Empire was bringing its full military might to bear. High Regent Vorath finally understood the threat. He had been wrong to dismiss the humans. They weren't extinct. They weren't weak. They were dangerous. He summoned his military council. I want every available ship. I want our best admirals. I want these humans crushed so completely that no one will ever dare challenge us again. Admiral Kraith stood before the council. His uniform was still scorched from the battle. His face was grim. My regent, with respect, these humans are not like any enemy we've faced. They have technology we can't match, tactics we can't counter. We need time to study them, to adapt. Vorath slammed his fist on the table. Time? We don't have time. Every day we wait, they grow stronger. Every system that falls makes us look weak. We attack now. We attack with everything. And we show the galaxy what happens to those who challenge the Empire. Kraith bowed. He had tried. But Vorath's pride would not allow retreat or caution. The regent wanted a decisive battle. He would get one. And Kraith feared it would not end the way Vorath expected. On Prometheus Rising, Jiwan received the intelligence from Soman. 50,000 Vakrian ships moving to intercept them. 10 times humanity's numbers. Even with superior technology, those odds were bad. She called a council of her senior officers, Minho, Hyejin, Daeho, Soman. They gathered in her ready room. The hologram showed the approaching enemy fleet. Opinions, Jiwan said simply. Minho spoke first. We hit them hard and fast. Use our technological advantage before they can adapt. We've been winning. Keep the momentum. Daeho shook his head. Our tech is good, but not that good. 10-to-1 odds or suicide. We need a defensive position, somewhere that gives us an advantage. Hyejin's voice was quiet. Or we could use the biological weapon. Deploy it in their path. Weaken them before the battle even starts. Everyone looked at her. She met their gazes without flinching. I know what I'm suggesting. I know it's terrible, but it would save our people. That's what matters, isn't it? The room fell silent. Jiwan thought about Earth, about the 8 billion who died, about the children crying out for rescue that never came. Did those deaths justify any weapon, any tactic, any sacrifice? She made her choice. We'll meet them at the Korvax Nebula. The radiation there will help mask our movements. We'll fight defensively. And yes, Dr. Hyejin, prepare the biological weapon. But we only use it if we're losing. If there's no other choice, the officers nodded. The decision was made. The human fleet changed course heading toward the nebula. Behind them, the massive Vakrian armada followed. The largest space battle in 3,000 years was about to begin. Minho returned to his ship. He stood on the bridge looking at his crew. Young faces, determined faces, How many of them would die in the coming battle? 5 years had passed since the war ended. Admiral Jiwan, now retired, stood on the surface of Earth. The gray sky stretched overhead. Dead oceans surrounded the continent. But in her hands she held something precious. A seedling. One of the original Earth trees preserved by the generation ships 3,000 years ago. Around her, billions watched through hologram. Humans from every colony, Vakrians from their homeworld, other species from across the galaxy, all gathered for this moment. The planting of the first tree on Earth in 3 millennia. Jiwan knelt in the ash and dirt, dug a hole with her bare hands, placed the seedling carefully inside, covered the roots with soil. It looked so small, so fragile, but it was alive, and where there was life, there was hope. "We remember," she said softly. "We remember what was lost. We remember what it cost to return, but we also remember that life finds a way, that hope survives, that even from the greatest darkness light can emerge." The seedling stood alone in the wasteland, but not for long. Across the planet, millions more were being planted, genetically enhanced to survive the harsh conditions. Slowly but surely, Earth was being reborn. In orbit above, the memorial ring gleamed, a massive structure containing the names of all 8 billion who died. Every person, every child, every dream that ended in fire. It would stand forever as a reminder. Never forget, never again. The war crimes trials had concluded 6 months earlier. High Regent Vorath and 17 of his commanders were found guilty of genocide and crimes against sentience. They received life imprisonment in maximum security facilities. Some called it too lenient. Others called it mercy. Jiwan called it justice. Admiral Kraith served as the Vakrian representative to the new Galactic Assembly. The Empire was dissolved. Democratic elections held. It was messy, complicated, sometimes violent, but it was progress. Real progress. He had visited Jiwan last month. They walked through the ruins of what was once London. Neither spoke much, but there was an understanding between them. They had been enemies. Now they were something else. Not friends exactly, but partners in building something better. Captain Minho led the Restoration Corps. What started as a military organization transformed into humanitarian work. He commanded teams that rebuilt worlds damaged by the old empire. Humans and Vakrians working side by side, learning to trust each other, learning to forgive. His closest friend was a Vakrian engineer named Torak. They had met during reconstruction efforts on a devastated colony world. Torak lost his entire family in the war. So did Minho. They bonded over shared loss and the determination to ensure it never happened again. Last week, Minho named his newborn daughter Korvax, after the nebula where he learned that enemies could be people too. Where he chose mercy over hatred. His wife thought he was crazy, but he insisted. Some lessons were worth remembering. Dr. Hyojin achieved her breakthrough 2 years ago, a treatment that reversed most of the biological weapons' effects. Thousands of Vakrians who would have died were saved. She traveled from world to world, administering the cure personally. It was her penance, her redemption. The guilt never fully left her. She still woke up some nights seeing the faces of those who died because of her creation, but she had learned to live with it, to channel it into something positive, to heal instead of harm. She received thousands of letters, from Vakrians thanking her, from families grateful their loved ones survived. She kept everyone. Read them when the darkness threatened to consume her. They reminded her that even terrible mistakes could lead to good outcomes if you worked hard enough. Commander Deho headed the technological exchange program. Human advances shared freely with other species. In return, they learned from alien innovations. The result was a golden age of discovery. New engines, new medicines, new ways of thinking about the universe. His greatest achievement was the Earth Restoration Project, combining human technology with Vakrian biological engineering. The dead world was slowly coming back to life. Oceans began to fill, atmosphere began to clear. In 50 years, people might actually live there again, might call it home. Deho often thought about the war, about the weapons he built, the ships he designed, the technology that killed so many. But he also thought about what came after. The tools of war transformed into instruments of peace. That made it worth it. Almost, Lieutenant Soman directed the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the hardest job in the galaxy. She documented everything. Human testimonies, Vakrian testimonies, the full truth of what happened and why. Both sides had to face uncomfortable realities. Many humans didn't want to admit their own war crimes. The biological weapon, the civilian casualties, the things done in anger and pain. Many Vacrians didn't want to accept responsibility for centuries of oppression. But Soman forced them all to confront the truth. She married a Vacrian historian named Valen. They met while compiling testimonies from elderly survivors. The relationship caused controversy on both sides. Death threats, protests, but they persevered. Love in the face of hatred. Unity in the face of division. It meant something. Empress Silara worked tirelessly to build democratic institutions across former Vacrian space. It was slow work. Frustrating work. Many wanted to return to the old ways, but slowly, steadily, change took root. Elections were held. Leaders chosen by the people instead of inherited power. She and Jiwan became unexpected friends. Two leaders who understood the weight of impossible choices. They met quarterly to discuss progress, to share fears and hopes, to remind each other why they chose mercy over vengeance. On the anniversary of the war's end, a massive ceremony was held on Vakros Prime. Representatives from every species attended. The day was declared Remembrance Day across the galaxy, a time to honor the dead, to celebrate peace, to commit to never repeating the mistakes of the past. Jiwan gave the keynote address. She stood before trillions watching across the galaxy. Her hair was gray now. Lines marked her face, but her eyes were clear, strong, determined. 3,000 years ago, my ancestors fled a burning world, she began. They were broken, scattered, nearly destroyed. But they survived. They built new homes. They raised children. They never forgot where they came from or what they lost. She paused, looked out at the audience. Humans and Vacrians sitting side by side, former enemies now partners. 5 years ago we returned. We came with rage in our hearts and fire in our weapons. We could have destroyed everything, killed everyone, taken revenge that matched our pain. But we chose something harder. We chose justice. We chose mercy. We chose to believe that even the darkest history could lead to a brighter future. That choice cost us, cost all of us. But look at what we built, she gestured to the crowd, to the diversity, to the hope visible in young faces. And this is our victory. Not the battles won, not the enemies defeated, but this. People who were taught to hate learning to love. Civilizations that were enemies becoming friends. A galaxy that was divided becoming whole. We were broken by hatred. Let us be defined by how we heal. We were divided by war. Let us be united by peace. We were haunted by the past. Let us be inspired by the future. The applause was deafening. Humans and Vacrians standing together, cheering together, believing together. It was imperfect, messy, but it was real. After the ceremony, Jiwan returned to Earth. She walked alone to the memorial ring, found the section containing her family's names. Great-great-grandparents she never knew, ancestors who died 3,000 years ago. She touched the wall gently. We remembered, she whispered. We came back. We made them face justice. But we also chose mercy. We chose to build instead of destroy. I hope that makes you proud. I hope your sacrifices meant something. The wind blew across the dead landscape. But in the distance she could see green. The first forest growing again. Engineered plants that could survive the harsh conditions. In another generation, maybe two, Earth would be truly alive again. Minho joined her at the memorial. He stood silently beside his former commander. They had both changed so much, been through so much, lost so much, but they survived. More than that, they thrived. Do you think we made the right choice? Minho asked. Choosing mercy over revenge? Jiwan thought about it. About all the battles, all the deaths, all the hard decisions. I think we made the only choice that let us stay human. Revenge would have felt good for a moment. But mercy? Mercy echoes forever. They stood together in comfortable silence, two warriors who laid down their weapons, two survivors who chose hope over hatred. Behind them, the memorial ring caught the light of Earth's sun. 8 billion names. 8 billion reasons to remember. 8 billion reasons to never let it happen again. 50 years later, Jiwan returned to Earth one last time. She was old now, 103 years. Modern medicine kept her alive, but she was tired, ready to rest. She walked slowly through a forest, a real forest, trees towering overhead, birds singing in the branches, a stream bubbling nearby. This was Earth, reborn, alive, home. She found the spot where she planted the first seedling all those years ago. It was a massive tree now, 30 meters tall, roots deep in the soil, branches reaching toward the sky. Around her, children played. Human children, Vacrian children, mixed families, the first generation born after the war. They knew the history, studied it in school, but they didn't carry the hatred, didn't bear the burden of the past.